Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tales of a Death Doula. I'm Martha, and I am a certified death doula, and I help people overcome their fear of death and dying and start to look at all the beautiful lessons that death can teach us about how to live a better life. In this episode, we are going on a 3-part journey as we get into the Halloween week. We're going on a spooky journey. So this is our second episode in our spooky series about death and dying. Today, we are going to talk about the ego death and the wisdom of the concept of learning to die before you die. So let's get into it. What does it mean to die before you die? Mystics across the ages have whispered this truth, that if you learn to face death in this life, not of the body, but of the ego, then the real death, when real death comes, you will already know how to meet death with freedom. And you will relinquish your hold to grasp to life out of fear. It's a truly beautiful concept when you think about it, that you are practicing, you're rehearsing how to die and how to let go of the ego. So this ego death concept has been around for centuries. As I mentioned, mystics in the Buddhist and Hindu and Vedas, for centuries, in every culture, in the Mayan culture, in many Native American cultures, have talked about this, that learning to die before you die is essential to meet death without fear and to surrender to the freedom that death offers. So let's talk about several different ways that you can accomplish this idea of learning to die before you die. How do you go about having an ego death? And there are several different ways that I know and that I have experienced of how to die before you die. One ego death is having a near-death experience. And we've all seen all of the videos and TV shows on people who have had a near-death experience. They've died. All of the stories seem to be very similar, how they float above their body and they feel like they're floating, and they see relatives and ancestors and spirit guides that are there with them to greet them. And many go towards the light. They see a big, bright, heavenly light, and they feel an overwhelming sense of peace and love. And they are out of their body, they're out of time, they're in space. They are not confined by any of the natural laws that we know here on Earth. And it's just a beautiful thing to hear all of these NDE stories. And that's one way. And then they have to come back. They either get a choice to come back, or they're told they must come back. So a near-death experience is one way that you can open your consciousness to understand about the ego death. Another way is to have a shamanic spirit journey. And this way is using plant medicine to have a hallucinogenic journey that opens your spirit, um, to understand that you are part of this universe and that you are more than just this body living on this planet, that you are connected to everything. And there's many stories on my podcast about my own spirit journeys of how um, in the plant medicine journey, that I was very scared to let go and go out of my body. I was frightened that, oh, I didn't know, I'd never done it before. I was frightened that something might possess me and get in my body and then I couldn't get back in, or that I might die. It feels very much like dying. And I remember that in my own shamanic spirit journey, in my hallucinatory state, Jesus came to me, and all of my spirit guides have been trying to get me to go on the journey and surrender out of the body. And Jesus came to me and he said, Martha, you bought the ticket. You might as well enjoy the ride. I thought it was so funny because I was scared and I was frightened. And Jesus was like, enjoy the ride. This is this is a journey, a spirit journey. And then once I did let the ego death happen, it really felt like I was dying. I had a blue demon that came and kept trying to choke me, not in a scary way. It honestly wasn't scary. It was just annoying because I didn't want to do it. And when I finally surrendered and said, okay, just do it, get it over with, and the spirit demon choked me very quickly. Didn't hurt. But I could definitely feel like I was being choked. It felt real. And then I descended into the earth, almost like a burial. I descended into the earth, and then I had a spirit guide that took me out into the cosmos. We were floating in the cosmos, and I wound up having a meeting with God, the source essence of not neither male nor female, just a human body of God. And this encounter in my spirit journey left me with God sending out throughout the universe out of his third eye. He, she, it wasn't gender specific, but this human shaped deity that I was calling God sent out a plasma, beautiful pink nebula looking plasma out across the entire universe, and it covered every galaxy and every planet and every star, and everything in the entire universe was covered in this beautiful pink plasma of love. And I was just floating out there in the world, in the universe, floating in this love and this infinite love that was felt by everything, every being in the universe. And it was so beautiful. And that's a way to get out of your body, get out of your ego, and realize that you're connected to everything in the universe. So near-death experiences and shamanic journeys, breath work, holotropic breath work, where you breathe in a circular fashion. And when you breathe in and breathe out in a circular fashion, you'll hyperoxygenate your pineal gland. And your pineal gland helps transform the DMT in your lungs, and it mixes with the magnesium and the oxygen in your pineal gland, and it will create the DMT that creates the hallucinogenic dream states. And this happens every night. This is how we dream. This is the process of dreaming. So in holotropic breath work, you're just kind of stimulating that process of creating DMT naturally in your brain without any chemicals and without any uh, plant medicine or anything. And you can have hallucinations, dream states where it's like a lucid dream where you're awake and aware, but you feel like you are visited by spirit guides and ancestors and relatives, and they come with messages and healing for the body. So that's another way, breath work. So let's see, we've got near-death experiences, shamanic journeys, and holotropic breath work, and then simple meditation. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't have to go to Peru and have a ayahuasca journey, or go to a breathwork class, or really do anything. Just sitting and thinking and meditating on the concept of death and the concept of your ego. Who are you without all of the stuff, all of the things that you tell yourself about your character, your name, your profession, your socioeconomic status, your political views, your country, your culture? All of these things we kind of categorize as the ego. And this is how we view ourselves in this world. A comparison. It's a comparison to other people. And so you're comparing yourself constantly of, are you a mother or a father? Or are you a sister or a brother? Or are you a boss or a manager or a VP? Or, what's your title? What kind of car do you drive? How much money do you make? How big a house do you have? All of those things are comparison things that create our egoic character in the story of our life. We're kind of all living in our own little cinematic journey of who you are and what's your character all about and what stories are shaping who you think you are. It's this sense of I and separateness, that I am separate from you, and that I am comparing myself constantly. I mean, you're better or worse than you. And that's the ego. That's what ego does. And ego's not a bad, thing. It keeps us alive. It keeps us out of danger. And ego's a good thing. But practicing this ego death of taking the mask off of who your story is, that you are a victim because of these things that happen to you in your life, or that you are a peacemaker because you always had to be the peacemaker in your family, or that all your trauma stories. It's taking the mask off of all of that and realizing that you're a soul. You're an infinite being that is part of this love of consciousness that is everything. And it's beautiful, beautiful experience, no matter how you come to it, whether it's through meditation or breath work, or if you happen to have an NDE or have a shamanic journey, then these are ways that we practice and rehearse how to surrender, how to get over that fear of, oh, not yet, no, I don't want to die yet, no, I don't want to let go. All of that happens when the ego gets involved. And as you practice this die before you die experience in whatever way it works out for you, then it helps you dissolve those boundaries. It helps you dissolve the me. People say when they have these experiences of the ego death, that the boundaries of me kind of dissolve, and you become part of everything, and you become part of nothing at the same time. The big void of space, and without time, without uh, shape, you just become everything. People talk about this floating in the pure energy of awareness and love and peace. That's what happened to me in my ayahuasca journey, that I was floating in this big pink cloud of plasma that came straight from God and encompassed the entire universe. And it was just full of peace and love. People also talk about losing linear time and entering more of an eternal state. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this when you release your ego and you become no one, no thing, no time, no space, nowhere, and you just are. You just exist with divine consciousness, and you are not separate from anyone or anything, and you are everything and nothing. It's a beautiful concept of losing that time and space aspect that we are as humans, that we live with our physical, sense of where we are in this universe. And when you can let that go and just become a floating part of the universe, it's lovely. Another aspect that a lot of people talk about when they have this ego death experience is a deep sense of unity and connectedness. And that's what I meant about you're part of everything. You're part of everything and nothing all at the same time. There is no me. It's just everything. Everything is everything. And it's a beautiful experience. And then there's this oscillating kind of concept that I was talking about the fear that comes on of, oh, I'm dying, I'm not ready, no, I don't really want to die. And then the peace that follows, the kind of welcome that happens. So when you have this experience, and it's happened in breath work, where people are afraid that they're, oh my goodness, they suddenly have a great fear that maybe they're dying for real. And as a breathwork facilitator, helping them understand to breathe through that fear, and to get to the other side of, like, shutting your amygdala down. So the amygdala is this, your ancient brain in the back of your skull that triggers the fear response, and your ego thinks, oh, I'm not ready, I don't want to die, no, stop breathing like that, stop doing that. And then if you can breathe through it and get past the fear, it's like the universe kind of is whispering to you, welcome home, you're free. Honestly, it really is a freedom of kind of getting out of your body and into space. Oh, that's another, I didn't think of this earlier, but that's another way that you can experience an ego death, is if you have an out-of-body experience, an astral projection experience. Some people have lucid dreams where they will have an out-of-body experience and maybe fly, across the world to another country, or you sit on the Eiffel Tower, or something like that. And it's a freeing kind of aspect that people have. So I didn't think about that astral projection, and is another way you can experience the ego death. So just kind of comparing all of these different ways to experience the ego death. I've had several. You don't just have one ego death. It's a practice. It's a meditative practice, and as you go into different experiences with the shamanic journeys, with a plant medicine journey, or a drum circle. Sometimes drum circles can create a hallucinatory kind of experience, or breath work. And then doing these things more often, or just sitting quietly and thinking about, one day I will die, one day this body will no longer be here. It's a wonderful practice, and you kind of have multiple ego deaths as you begin this practice, and as you sit and contemplate, who am I? Who am I really underneath all of this character that I play? Who am I really? I will tell you one lucid dream that I had. If you have lucid dreams, then that is a way to experience an ego death. I had a lucid dream where I was standing on a hill. It was like a round green hill with a tree, and it was overlooking a little tiny village in the valley, kind of like, maybe it was Switzerland. I don't know where I was, but I was standing there, and all of a sudden, I had a spirit guide. It was Death. Death doesn't scare me because Death is one of my spirit guides. Death came, and my entire body started, like from the head down, started to disintegrate. It was like I turned into ash, and my whole body, and I was watching my body kind of dissolve into a pile of ash. As I'm, looking around at the scenery and seeing the little village down below me, and all of a sudden, my entire body is just gone, and I'm a pile of ash. And I wasn't afraid. I wasn't scared at all. I was still there. I was observing that this had happened, and I became just an atom in the air. And I became part of the entire scene that I was in. And it wasn't frightening at all. It was freeing. It was kind of beautiful just to be part of the wind. And I think that's one of the ways that my spirit guides have initiated me into learning about death, is sometimes having dreams like that. So that's definitely a way that you can contemplate it. And if you have lucid dreams, then maybe you can set an intention before you go to sleep to have an ego death, and you might have a dream like that. But definitely facing and practicing this ego death, this lessons on learning to die before you die, it's not about being morbid, and it's not about being obsessed with death, and it's not about being gothically morbid. It's really about being obsessed with life, if anything. I'm obsessed with learning the lessons about how to release the fear of death. Practicing these lessons helps you face the ego death, to release the fear of physical death when physical death comes. By practicing this, you can surrender. You can learn how to surrender and loosen the grip of your control aspect of wanting to control when death happens and how death happens. And it starts to awaken your curiosity. You kind of exchange fear and that fear of the unknown for wonder and curiosity about, wow, what else? Well, who am I out here in this great big universe? If I'm not this one body, this one person, wow, it expands your level of consciousness to have this wonderful experience. Let go of fear and openness to wonder. And it really it's like a rehearsal. You're rehearsing to experience the true freedom. So when death actually finally physically comes, however that may be, whenever that may be, you know death, and you've practiced this releasing, and you've practiced this surrender, so that it's not an annihilation of your being, it's an expansion into freedom and peace and oneness with everything. It's really worth your time and effort to think about integrating some of these. So, as I mentioned, you're going to have many ego deaths throughout your life. And even if you don't practice this, how to die before you die, we all experience ego deaths. Loss of a job, the divorce of a spouse, the death of a loved one. These things kind of shake and rock your world of who you think you are and how you think everything should be. And so we all kind of experience little deaths throughout our life. And practicing, leaning into that is the way to develop, like you would develop a muscle. You're developing your consciousness. You're developing, you're awakening to who your soul truly is. I would invite you to, as you practice this lessons of dying before you die, to journal. Do some journaling. If you have a lucid dream, if you go on a spirit journey, if you have a breathwork session, or if you just simply meditate, journal. And some of the questions that I would journal would be, who am I without my roles? Who am I without my trauma story? Who am I without my social labels? Who am I? And what is that? In the Hindu religion, they have a concept, and they say, I am that. And it's just, everything is everything. Yes, you're that. You're everything. I am that. And it's kind of like understanding that you are part of everything. There is no separation. So I would just say that no matter how you practice this ego death, the practice of dying before you die, whether it be an NDE, a shamanic journey, a breath work, a lucid dream, however you come about beginning that practice of letting go and understanding death as a friend, and understanding death as an ally, as a spirit guide. Death is a spirit guide. Ooh, I want to tell you one more story. When my mother died, as I've discussed in previous episodes, suddenly from a heart attack. And I happened to be at her house when she passed away. And I had the experience of seeing death walk in the room. And I knew immediately that that was death, and that one of my parents was going to be dying. It was kind of it's a non-negotiable when death walks in the room. And seeing death catch my mother's soul and take her out through the window, it was an amazing experience. But also, it was kind of like death is like the UPS guy. He's there to escort you on your journey to wholeness. He's there to go with you. So we shouldn't fear death. He's there to be your guide. And it's good to meditate on these things and to understand these aspects of death and dying so that you can not be afraid when you see death. If you have enjoyed this episode and my cat who's here to join us, then please like and subscribe to the video below. This is Zeke, and I'm so glad you get to meet him too. Please like and subscribe to more videos. We've got one more coming up on our spooky season episodes. And we'll see you next time for Tales of a Death Doula. Thank you.